my email. I don't see any
All you
report.
have to do is check on your computer. There's a
Hey,
I
place
Jay.
where
just
you,
started your recording.
Yeah,
I
oh,
it
good,
started
started.
your
good.
recording.
Oh, okay.
Okay, thank you
I
so
love
much.
you for
I
that.
didn't receive it. Thank
Thank you for
you.
doing that.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate that, Natalie. Appreciate it. You can send it to us afterwards. Vicente has originally, I heard him recently in the last 2 years. He came on and talked about migrating to the United States. Do you remember that, Vicente?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
you talked about some of the challenges of being a new person, not knowing where you were going to live in terms of you didn't know the language, you knew some of the language, you didn't know the customs, and what it's like to come in to a country where everything is different from your country of origin. And I remember being very touched by that because very few people are willing to share their personal story. And I'm wondering if you would start. And by the way, we were going to record this. Vicente's going to talk for about 20, 30 minutes, and then we're going to open it up to questions. But what I wanted to start off with, Vicente, what did you think you were going to be when you were a teenager? What did you want to do?
Oh my God. Uh, I thought that the starting was going to be a little bit easier. Well, first, my name is Vicente Baamonde. What I wanted to be, I don't know, probably a policeman or a firefighter, probably, like most of the kids, I guess. Um, but after this, you have all the influence of your parents, and and I ended as an engineer, and now as a not by coincidence, but as a humanitarian, really. Um, yeah, it has been a long way to be here, and I can tell you that um, I I feel that all the volunteers and employees that I have been encountering in my story in the Red Cross has been helping me to be here today and to be who I am, right? I saw a lot of people introducing themselves, like a PJ, Paula. They were saying RFL caseworkers. They are also RFL mentors. That is how I started in restoring family links. Like probably 11 years ago or something like that. But yeah, how do you want that I go? I talk about
I
how I
would love for
started
you to
here,
talk.
or
I would love for you to talk about how you came to be in the position you're in, because you had a long journey getting to the position you're in, and then maybe talk a little bit about what you do at National. And also, you've been responding to the border crisis. So I'd love to hear about that. And if you have any slides, you can share them with Alicia and she'll share them with the group, or you can share them yourself. So your journey, your personal journey, it's always what people really want to hear, because, you can give all your titles, but your experience is so much richer than that. Do you know what I'm
yeah.
saying?
I know exactly what you are saying, but I can tell you, talk about about myself is so difficult. Like doing the performance review when you are ending the year and you need to do the self evaluation, and I spend honestly hours thinking, oh my God, what I'm going to write here, right? It's always good things, right? But talking about good about myself is complex. But anyway, I don't have a specific representation. When I was thinking about this, I took some pictures that I have along especially when I was at the chapter. I can show this at the end. Then I can talk about, and then I can quickly go through some of them because it's basically my life at the chapter, at the region, and one specific case that we have in restoring family links that was very, very interesting. But okay, starting. Okay, I started in the Red Cross as a volunteer. It was in November 2009. Um, and I started as a recovery specialist. I think I was called at the time like a client casework specialist. And I was a volunteer because I wanted to try the Red Cross. And let me go back a little bit. I am an engineer by studies. I was working in Spain. I'm from Spain, from Madrid. And I was the operations manager in a shipping company. It's a chemical and oil company that had a fleet of 7 or 8 these big chemical and oil tankers, and I was running the operations, right? And a job that was very interesting, but didn't fulfill really what I wanted to do. And I remember that I quit my job, telling the fleet manager that I was looking for something more humanitarian. You can guess that he was looking at me with a strange face about what this guy is talking about. Especially thinking in the business that we were working. And I have friends that they were working in the nonprofit in Africa. They gave me the recommendation to try to volunteer in the Red Cross. And the reason of the Red Cross was because it was a big organization with different kind of services and was in almost every country in the world, right? Then I remember in 2009 going through the process of being a volunteer. At the time was a full Saturday. I think that was starting at 8:30 or something like that until 4 p.m. And you have all these people coming to talk about all line of services, every single thing, right? And then you are there engaging and asking questions, and you kind of see what you would like to do, right? And then the thing that called my attention was casework, recovery casework for disaster cycle services. At the time, was called emergency services. I started there. I really like it. Never thought at that time. I remember that I never thought that I would be working for American Red Cross. For me, it was like to see how the nonprofit world was working, right? And actually, I volunteered for almost a year, and I left because I need to work. I had my first daughter, and I need to take care of her, right? My wife was working, and I was taking care of my daughter at home. I need to get a job with, I think that was with Google, working from home in 2009. Google was completely advanced on these things, right? And I remember that I was still in contact with my colleagues or with my friends in the chapter. And I didn't say where. This was in Phoenix. At the time it's called the Grand Canyon chapter, and was only the north part of Arizona. That was not even Tucson. Tucson was a different chapter at the time, right? Separated from Phoenix. Coming back from vacation in Spain, I contact with my old manager saying, "How are you doing? I just came back from Spain." And I remember that she told me, "I just have the perfect position for you. It just opened. We need a specialist for casework." But at the time, I remember I moved to Las Vegas, but that I hung up and I applied immediately to the position. And the rest is history. I got an interview, that probably one of the worst interviews that I did in my life. It was terrible. I blanked out even when they asked me what kind of services the American Red Cross is providing. This was a interview through a phone. I remember it being in a library in Las Vegas. Anyway, I started I think that was already November 2011. And I was doing the recovery casework, the casework for emergency services. And in my first day, somebody gave me a folder, and they told me that the folder was international services, and nobody talked about these things before, right? And they were saying that this was going to be, I think that they said like a 10% of your time, of your position is going to be this, right? And at that time, international services at the chapters were international humanitarian law and restoring family links. We have a volunteer there. Little by little, start to work on restoring family links, to learn more about IHL. That was the first time that I learned about the Geneva Conventions and where the Red Cross was coming. That sometimes you notice that still colleagues in the Red Cross, in the American Red Cross and other national societies, they don't know the origin of all these things, right? Of the Red Cross. And really was amazing. I remember that it probably become this 10% probably become 90% of my job plus emergency services. That that there are fires every single day. I was the person in the chapter that was kind of at the time doing the follow-up with the clients that they have a fire, and sometimes also doing some disaster action team calls. Basically because I was speaking Spanish, and at the time I remember that was 60% of the people that we were supporting, the clients that they were having a fire or the flooding or something else, there were Spanish-speaking people. And from there, I think that I went to different positions. We have the re-engineering. At the time, too, in national headquarters, the Restoring Family Links team started the RFL mentor group that basically was kind of what they call at the time champions in RFL. I don't like to call it champion, but there was champions of other colleagues, volunteers and staff that they were doing something well in, in Restoring Family Links, right? Probably my case was outreach. We're doing an amazing outreach in Phoenix because I really love it. I was involved in all these events during the weekends, trying to engage the communities. And little by little, this outreach brought us, at the time, during several years, the highest volume of cases in the US. Arizona was the place that has the highest number of cases, also because we have also Tucson later on, right? Let me see where I'm going, because, I was there in the chapter until 2015. Being an RFL mentor, I got involved with, obviously, with the chapter, with the team in national headquarters. I got involved in one of the first crises in the border. I think that was in 2014, when there was, I cannot remember the number of unaccompanied children that crossed the border, and then they were in the custody of ICE. And I remember that I think that Gail got a phone call from, I think that was the director of DHS at the time, requesting help from the American Red Cross. That's the time that we saw the famous pictures of kids with Red Cross blankets. And we provide the support, actually. They send people from international services, from national headquarters, and from DCS, to open an operation in the border. And basically, the Red Cross was running a phone bank, because actually it was a phone bank. Some phones, regular phones, no cell phones, in one of the ICE facilities where they have the kids. And the Red Cross, the volunteers and employees, we were helping them to call their families. It was a really kind of complex situation because, I remember being there, you need to take notes and helping them. And, you were having, like a 14, 15 year kids and things like that. And I remember to look up, and I saw these kids that probably were like a 6 or 7 year old, without family there, also in this no detention center, but a facility where they were being taken care, right? Yeah, this was one of the first operations that we had, and supporting specifically that situation. And this kind of gave me visibility, also a little more visibility with the national headquarters team, and I remember that they offered me a year at national headquarters because one of the team members who got a position with the ICRC, with the International Committee of the Red Cross, of the Washington delegation, to support them during that year, right? And then they offered me the position. Then I moved to DC as I think I was the caseworker for the Americas and the outreach coordinator. You know how these things are, right? You are moving in the Red Cross in different directions. At the time at the chapter, in addition to run international services, I was the disaster program manager for the Maricopa County, I think the Maricopa, Pinal County, different counties, right? But well, the chapter let me go to DC. In DC, I have other positions. Once that this position ended, the year, I think that I got another position to improve the systems of the national headquarters team. And finally, at the time, the director left, and I was able to get the manager position. And from there, with right now, I think like this is my first year as the director for International Services US programs. It's a kind of weird title. Basically, it's because contain IHL, JAC, and Restoring Family Links. The three programs are kind of has this international component, IHL and JAC, because it's the international humanitarian law with the Geneva Conventions, and also RFL, that is a program is providing services in the field. Our colleagues in the field, you basically, you are providing the services, but we have this connection with other national societies that they are doing kind of the other piece of the work, or vice versa. No? As you know, we have cases that can be originated in other national societies or ICRC delegations, and they are coming here, right? Oh my God. Let me see where I am going. Right now, it's Jill told me to talk a little bit about the position. Look, I remember when I was in Phoenix, still as an International Services Coordinator, that I was talking with my colleague Elisa Mays in Tucson. She was a volunteer, a long-term volunteer, amazing. She's retired now. And we're talking about the things that we would change if we could go to national headquarters and be part of the team. And we were talking without thinking that any of us will have the opportunity, right? And we both were RFL mentors. And it's very interesting how different you see the things in the field when you go up to the headquarters and you realize that you cannot change so many things, right? But anyway, the experience of being able to kind of run the program, to try to make the program more efficient, and try to support the field with all these tools that when I was at the chapter, I was thinking that will be necessary through with the help with the Restoring Family Links mentors, was a unique experience, actually. There are a lot of things that probably in the field are not visible. Most of the times, the teams and national headquarters are kind of obscure, right? It seems that we are only creating tools, creating processes that make things a little more difficult to the field. But for instance, in Restoring Family Links, we have the other component that we are working with other national societies and the ICRC in Geneva, for instance, right? The American Red Cross is part of 2 or 3 groups. For instance, the implementation group. We are part also the application group. And these groups, there are groups that they're kind of created by the ICRC in Geneva with different national societies. Usually the implementation group will have like 20 national societies. And this is the group that kind of develop the movement, the RFL movement strategy, meaning that what is the direction that is going to take in the next 7 years, the national societies in relation to Restoring Family Links, right? And this is a process that takes some years, and the American Red Cross is one of the voices that be there to be able to influence that. And no, it's not only me working there. It's for instance, in this strategy that was developed a couple of years ago, through some of the colleagues that we have in international services, we were able to add a component to the strategy of monitoring and evaluation to make sure that, okay, you have a strategy, what do you do with the strategy now, right? And all these things that I'm telling you is to show you that we kind of, with experience and the knowledge that we are getting here all together as a national society, we are able to influence how the Restoring Family Links is working in other countries. It's not only that we are sending cases, it's that we are helping other countries to make sure that they have also the tools and the processes and the direction that we should have all together as a network to be able to provide services. And I don't know, Jill, I think that I'm going in different directions. I don't know if you want to start questions or
No,
I can talk about.
that's exactly what I wanted you to share. I wanted you to share your personal journey so that people knew how you would get there. You got there, and also to share about your border crisis, because I think many people don't know that we do respond to unaccompanied minors, that we do provide supportive services when people are dealing with crossing the border and they're separated from their families. And for
Yeah,
those who aren't familiar, Restoring Family Links is the department within international services that reconnects families due to forced migration, disaster, and armed conflict. They're able to get messages. They're able to sometimes provide satellite phones. So, as Vicente mentioned, to be able to reach their family members. And international humanitarian law is we teach that to the public. And Vicente runs those two programs, including what we call the Youth Action Campaign, which he mentioned was YAC. It's a campaign that every year high school students get involved in teaching IHL using social media, speakers, games, whatever they choose. They're very creative in the way that they do it. And I'm really curious where you were on the border. That was one of the questions I had for you.
the first time was this thing happened in Nogales. I remember that was in Nogales in the US side where we have this kind of fund operation. And look, was in 2014, but in 2013, I remember that when I was at the chapter, the ICRC delegation in Washington, D.C. came with Restoring Family Links people from national headquarters, and they did an assessment of the needs of migrants crossing the border, right? They wanted only to know, what was the needs, what they were seeing, and things like that. And I remember that they visit Nogales. I think that they were also in Texas. And as a result of this assessment, one of the things that came up was the font. They realized at the time, it was 2013, right, that most of the migrants were crossing the border and they were not able to call their families. And most of them spent months without, the possibility to call them. The families didn't know if they were alive or not. And this is when the American Red Cross established the phone services. I remember that I think that we call the phone projects. And we have phones. Basically, we call the phone kits, but basically we're partnering with other agencies that were providing services to migrants. Usually there were shelters, it could be from Catholic charities and other organizations that they have a small shelter where they were providing this kind of support of when they were arriving, they were getting some clothes and things like that, and continued their journey to their destination with other family members. Right now, what is happening is that they are being detained, they are being processed by ICE, they are giving the notice to go to the court, and they are released. But this is in the same kind of the same process. They are kind of dropping in Phoenix, in Tucson, in San Antonio, in other areas. This is people that they don't know the language. They don't know where they are because if you speak the language and you are dropped in New York probably and you need to go to Atlanta, probably you know how to do it, right? But when you don't know the language, you don't know the country. So if somebody drops you off in San Antonio and you need to go to Chicago, this is this is very complex, right? And especially when your family doesn't know even that you are alive. Then these partners are providing this kind of support, and they have the possibility to get one of the RFL funds to call their families and tell them that they are alive. This started in 2013. We have in phones, that has been a little bit different over the years, but we have phones in San Diego, in different areas in the south of Arizona, also in Texas and Rio Grande area. And I think that like a 4 or 5 years ago, we introduced also the Wi-Fi. access to internet through these small hotspots with some of the partners. In the beginning, we have some models that I remember starting in Texas, where we have volunteers going to the shelters to provide the phone calls, right? But it was very complex because we need to have set up a schedule with the volunteers going specific hours. The migrants, they don't understand about to do things about from 8 to 5. They're crossing the border 24 hours. Then that's the reason that we decide to place the cell phones. They are regular Red Cross phones with international capabilities in these shelters, being managed by the volunteers of the shelters, that they were being trained by our field colleagues to be able to offer these services.
That's incredible. Thank you for sharing that part. I think, what do you find the most challenging thing? I know that you've been working for 1 year as the Director of International Services, juggling 3 programs and all the different states, regions, divisions. What's been the most challenging and what's been the most rewarding for you?
The most challenging thing, not only for me, probably for the whole national headquarters team, including employees and volunteers, is how to help the field, the people doing the work, to have the tools, being able to be helpful and not being in the middle, right? And sometimes it's very complex. Because also we know that the field, and I don't know if the field sounds weird, but it's how we refer in national headquarters to the I still call the chapter network, right? I know that they are the regional network. But we know the challenges that they have been going through. We know, all the situations with people leaving and not being able to do the hirings, and volunteers coming and going too. It's very challenging. We have been trying to fine tune the tools that we have. Sometimes it's frustrating to see that we cannot do more. Also, we have a small team in national headquarters. The RFL team, for instance, that we have 3 people managing the whole process at national headquarters, and also the same thing for JAC. For JAC and IHL. In IHL, we have 2 senior, 2 legal advisors, Thomas and Christian, and also Jack, that is Larissa Hatch, that is taking care of Jack. And in the side of this is our employees. We have a group of volunteers too. And for the RFL team, the same thing, 3 people. That we have Susan, Maria, and Angelina taking care of all the work in national headquarters. I can tell you that we have also the support of volunteers and the Restoring Family Links mentors, like PJ and Paula, that they are here in the phone call. That it's like a great extension of what is national headquarters without being national headquarters. Because the problem that we have in national headquarters is that exactly that we are the headquarters. And I came from the field. I spent a lot of years in the field, and I remember my boss, my previous boss, Randy Badwell, that has been one of the best bosses that I had in the Red Cross, telling me, Vicente, you are already national headquarters person. Stop saying that you have been in the chapter, because this was 200 years ago. He was right. There are moments that you kind of lose perspective. And this is the most challenging thing, really. Lose the perspective and not being able to provide what is needed. And the rewarding, we are kind of far away, for instance, in Restoring Family Links, far away from the clients. But we see sometimes successful stories. And in the end, we are kind of part of the chain. I know that sometimes it's the caseworker that is helping the client. But everyone is part of the chain, right? And then when we see these things, it's amazing. Or when you see the youth that they are learning for the first time international humanitarian law, the rules of the war, right? The limitations. I remember Thomas and the team, they are doing this great job using this pop cultural presentation, no? They've been using Harry Potter, using Star Wars, Indiana
Avatar.
Jones. Yeah,
Oh my
Avatar.
goodness. Yeah,
Yeah, it's amazing. I
absolutely.
remember it's great because people connect. I remember my daughter was probably 11 years old when I think that 11 or 12, I can't remember. And she was attending the one for Harry Potter, right? And, IHL is complex, right? But try to bring the idea of Harry Potter and mix with IHL with this kind of because there are no easy themes or ideas. For my daughter was kind of he could do the first connection. She started to understand the child soldiers and things like that, right? These concepts
Wow.
that are kind of and then and that's the whole idea of Jack, right? We want to help. Well, at the time that the kids are developing their personalities, how they are going to be when they are older, right? And we want to have this impact, right? We want to that they gain the empathy, that they learn that limitations, because that's the whole idea of how you change generations and how you change societies, right? And this is very important because years ago there was this survey that the ICRC did. I can't remember anymore if it was the ICRC with us or we did it with them, without them. Anyway, there was this survey, International Humanitarian Law, and we were asking, there was a couple of questions for youth, right? And one of them was about, do you think that it's okay that the US military torture a prisoner to extract information that is going to be vital to save lives? And the percentage was very high, like a yes, that they didn't have any problem. Then they had the other question that was the opposite. What happened if the enemy, right, has a US military personnel prisoner, right? It's okay for them to torture, right? That obviously was completely opposite. But the idea was that probably they didn't have the knowledge that they need to have to realize that it's wrong, right? And this is probably because of the education that we receive. When in Spain, for instance, when I grew up in Spain, we saw a lot of movies, coming from Hollywood, right? Where you see the things in a different way. The torture and things like that, they're something very common, right? And then you kind of grow thinking that is normal, right? But it's not. It's not. And that's the reason that we have the Geneva Conventions. That's the reason that we are here. All of us, we are here because we started. So the Red Cross movement started with the limitations that Henry Dunant saw that we need to have in wars, right? But anyway, I think that is really important. The Youth Action Campaign is kind of helping the new generations to really understand these limits, the limits that we have in wars, and the respect of the dignity of the human beings.
Thank you, Vicente. And I wonder if you would be willing to share before we start asking the audience to ask you questions and start the discussion, if you'd be willing to share the photographs you have, and also you said you had a case you wanted to share. Yeah.
Well, yeah, there. Let me share that. What is sharing here?
Yeah, no worries.
Here it is. Yeah, they're very simple. Don't think that it's a great. Let me see, PowerPoint. This one. I think that you can see this, right? This is
Yes,
a
we
little bit
can.
silly. This is my office in Phoenix. This is where I started, and I really love the chapter. I kind of miss this kind of life that we have in the chapter. I can tell you that the national headquarters, it's very nice buildings across the White House, but we don't have the same life. It's like all the pictures that I'm going to show you is the volunteers and the employees that help me every second I have been working in the Red Cross. These four volunteers helped me to organize the World Refugee Day in 2014 for the city of Phoenix. It's like I remember that I was talking with a guy in the middle, Christopher. I remember I was telling him the previous year in 2013 how sad I was because the city of Phoenix there was no any entity that was able to organize a World Refugee Day together, right? There was small events that didn't have impact, right, in the community. It's like a different events, and nobody realized in Phoenix that something was happening, right? And I remember telling him, it's a pity that we don't have a little bit of money. Then the next year, somebody from NASA headquarters called me and told me, hey, Vicente, if we give you some money to organize something for World Refugee Day, bam, we organized for the city of Phoenix the whole event. It was crazy, actually. We got something in North Central Phoenix through the university, a huge park. I can tell you that everyone in the chapter was like, what is going on, right? Because we were running this with volunteers. It's like was these four people with, obviously there was more volunteers involved, right? But this was kind of the leadership of the event. And I remember that we are talking about Catholic Charities, Family Lutheran Services, IRS. We have the Refugee State Coordinator. I remember that we were running the meetings and everyone was fighting. I was with my volunteer, Justin, that is the one in the right. I was like, what is going on here, right? And in the end, we were able to convene everyone working together and creating a collaboration that I remember that the Refugee State Coordinator, after the event, he said that was the best event that he saw in years in Phoenix. And this was not about us. This was about to bring the community together and to raise awareness of the refugees, who were the refugees, where they were living, what kind of life they have, to other people. We have a huge attendance. Even if I remember that was the World Cup in 2014, and there was this, it was the same day that we have this game between, I think it was Germany and Ghana. Like, oh my God, that's a big thing. And in the refugee community, football, soccer is something very important. Then we saw that we are not going to have the attendance that we wanted. But we want the biggest chapter in the Phoenix, the biggest TV in the Phoenix chapter, and we put it there, and then we have all the males, all the parents coming to see the game, and anyway, it's a long story, and it was a great event, and I think that was a good example on how we were able to raise awareness in the community for IFL. Look, this is pictures of the life in like doing silly things. This is the kind of things that I miss in the life in national headquarters. That is great too, but it's a little bit different, right? And this is a mix of volunteers and employees. The person that is in the middle, actually, the exchange is great. The news that you see in the exchange, but in these many years I have in the Red Cross, I saw a lot of people passing away through this news. Usually you see something like that. This was a volunteer that I think I was 102 or 103 years old that probably passed away like a few months ago. Anyway, it's a little bit the same thing. This is one of the classes that we were organizing for Restoring Family Links. And the other thing was a visit of the Mexican Red Cross, which we have a very good relationships, not only when there are disasters, also with our colleagues in Restoring Family Links. And this was a visit that was organized to the border to see how ICE and the Border Patrol was working with us. And the last case, look, this is 2 children that were found in, I got an eye, I'm blanking now. This picture was taken.
Were they in the Kenya? Was it a Kenyan refugee camp? I can't remember.
I think that was a Chad. Was
Chad,
Chad.
you're
Yeah,
right. It was Chad.
yeah.
Yes.
And the mom this is the picture, and you see that the red cross behind. It isn't the. We took this picture in the chapter in Tucson. I didn't work in this case, only in national headquarters. I remember that this was one of the cases of Elisa Mays, that was an exemplar volunteer, that was very in the community, because he was able to bring volunteers from the community to do restoring family links. That was one of the biggest success of the American Red Cross there. And yeah, these kids, I think that they walk from, I can't remember. Gee, probably you remember better than me, but they walk from Chad to a different country, thinking that the mom
Yeah.
was
Of
going to
course, they're
be
in
in
different
this.
refugee camps than
Mhm,
their mother. Yeah. They were
mhm.
in different refugee camps.
Yeah,
Totally
and
different.
finally, totally fair. Yeah, and then we were able to find them. Yeah, it was a very long story, because we found them, and they disappeared again. They were in the care of the UNHCR, and we were able to find them again. And now they're in contact, and I think that they are in the process to come to the US. But look, this is one of the cases that, not all of the cases end like that. And probably if you have restoring family links, and I saw restoring family links people in this phone call, probably, this is no, you know, we see a different things with different cases. But this was one of my favorite cases lately, and we are trying to do still a video if we can, because one of the important things is to get these successful stories and do the promotion of them, because it could help other people. Yeah,
Absolutely.
and that's all.
Vicente,
That's a short
the
presentation.
wonderful, 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 wonderful. What I want to do is now open it up to the audience, and please raise your hand, or please, um, unmute yourself and ask the questions. This is the time for you to ask questions of Vicente. Karen, please go ahead.
Hi. Okay, I'm gonna show my face. Okay, thank you for your presentation. I am diversity, equity, and inclusion community lead for my chapter, and I've endeavored to get the director, the board, staff, and volunteers to look at to want to. I've tried to encourage them to become more educated about the non-white community in Spokane. We're like 88% white, and then the 12% is African American, Native American, Korean, Samoan, and all the ones who are considered non-white. And sometimes it seems like that is a great endeavor. I don't want to call it stressful, but a great endeavor. And I took the training for Family Links, and while I worked in SAF, and haven't had a chance to utilize that yet. But I'm wondering if you have individuals in a chapter who are assigned to do the work, are they doing that work alone? Because I know that, and are they doing that like, I know that's their specialty, but what I would like to do is to see my local chapter engage at a deeper level and just get to know who lives in their service area. And Spokane is a refugee resettlement site. And so I think, if for no other reason, you're more effective in disaster responses if you are more culturally aware of the needs of your community, and our community includes refugees.
You are totally right there. You are totally right there, and it's something that I saw when I was in Phoenix. At the time, restoring family links was depending of emergency services or disaster cycle services now, and I was a different pair, right? And I remember going to disasters where you have a fire in an apartment complex. The majority of the population were Somalis, for instance, right? And we have connections. We have a partnership with the Somali American Association, right? Then we were able to kind of, if you want to open a shelter, you cannot offer hamburgers, right, or French fries to a community that probably is not going to eat this kind of food, right?
Yes.
And these kind of connections and these kind of relationships can help you to really respond and even gain the trust of the community. Or, for instance, how many times we have been asking the Mexican Red Cross helping us in some disasters with populations that have to reach populations in some states that we, for whatever reason, we are not able to connect right after a disaster. Yeah, it's you're totally right. It's I know that some chapters as they are able and they have the resources, and resources is people, right? To be able to do this work. But sometimes you have an SAFIS colleague that left the position, and it's like how this thing works, right? You have the relationships, somebody leave, and you need to recreate again with the next person these kind of relationships. But we cannot forget that our SAFIS colleagues, they have this umbrella of duties that they are huge. It's when I was talking about my frustration on how I can help better or more, it's because really there are a lot of things in the plate of our colleagues that they are responsible for the programs. And sometimes it's kind of difficult to engage. It's the different kind of volunteers that probably you will need to use in restoring family links in IHL versus what you can need for specifically SAF, right? Yeah, I think that there are some good examples. Little by little, this is a work that we need to do. It's true that also the American Red Cross should reflect the communities that we are serving. But I can tell you that Gail, the leadership team, they understand that. And I think, when I entered also in the Red Cross and I was in Phoenix, I remember my CEO at the time asking me, Vicente, can you bring a client to talk with the board? Yeah. Then I was having conversations with a client, but we kept talking after we closed the case, and I was checking out how she was doing and everything. I called her, and then she was okay talking with the board, right? And we arrived, and everyone was white. She was black. I was me, but I look like white, but I have this accent, right? And I didn't realize, but for me it was a shock. And I remember looking at her like because the board was big. So I remember there was this L or U table with so many. Well, I think that things are changing in the Red Cross. I am not saying that was bad at the time. I don't want to. I want to be sensitive, cultural sensitive. But I think that we are doing a lot of progress. We start to see more diversity. But it's true that, for instance, in RFL, it's the thing that works the best is bring volunteers from the communities. But sometimes these communities, there are communities that are kind of focus on getting jobs, on being able to learn English, and get the kids to schools and things like that. And sometimes being a volunteer while they are going through hardship, hard existence, it could be complex. But we need to try. We need to try. So yeah, I think that I'm positive about where we are going.
Karen, one of the things that we've done in our community is go through the resettlement agencies, because the resettlement agencies work with the diverse communities within the community centers. And if you find the resettlement agencies, quite often they meet with other agencies in the community which work with refugees. So if you get in touch with the resettlement agency and ask them to bring a speaker in to talk to your CEO board members or your regional folk, it really, really helps. So contacting Spokane and seeing if they have an immigration forum with all the agencies that work with refugees exist, or having them bring in somebody who's just become a refugee into the community and talk. It's that personal relationship that quite often makes a difference in people's eyes opening up. That's just an idea, Karen.
Yeah, thank you.
And then Loida had a question. Did you want to say anything more, Karen, before I don't want to cut you off?
No, thank you. And to just tell Vincent, I was born in Madrid.
Wow.
We're from the same city.
Wonderful. Loida, you had your hand up. Loida, do you want to mute? Yes, go ahead.
Hola, Vicente. Good afternoon,
Hola.
everybody. So I am a Community Engagement and Partnerships Disaster Program Manager. It's a new position that is only in specific regions. It's pilot. But one of the things previously in my recruiter position was even just reaching out to the community. And we made this event, or we made this program project called Conches y Conversaciones to take the ERV, our emergency response vehicle, out and just get out into the community and create presence. And one of the things that many people would tell us is that they thought it was an ambulance. And that's really because in other countries and other Red Crosses, they do different services. So the Mexican Red Cross, for example, they have ambulatory services. And because of that, it's really, for me, in many different ways, I think it's important for us to talk about the differences that we have as Red Cross or Red Crescents with with our fellow societies. And so I had a question on the Restoring Family Links, because I do know other Red Crosses do this. And as you shared, Panama, the Panamanian Red Cross, they do this, for example. But then not a lot of people know that we do this. So I was trying to find some information online, Vicente, and I found, I believe, 3 flyers. And I was doing this presentation for this iglesia, for this church, and they really work closely with the migrants in the community and the undocumented people. And I felt a little challenged and say, how can I tell them about what we do? So I would love to know, what are some of those resources, those success stories? How can we get access to those? I couldn't find as much information as I would have hoped for on the exchange. So where could we look to receive that input? And I did talk with my local international services team, but even they didn't have much. So that's just kind of knowing support-wise there. And then I had one more question, but I'll let you answer the first one, please. Thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for the question. If I understood, you are looking for resources to try to engage the community, right? Well, I will need to look, but in the Restoring Family Links page, we have some guide to do events. Let me see if I can get it right away and put it here. And we have flyers. I don't know if you saw the flyers that we have in different languages, actually. We have, I think that we have like 13 languages or something like that. But you are looking for the specific flyers about Restoring Family Links or something else?
So like information, I found the flyer that said if you need to be reconnected, and it had multiple languages, but actual like 1 to 2 pages on what we do say with restoring family links.
Yeah.
That would be really helpful, especially as I'm going out and working with our diverse communities and telling them that they can have access to these resources. And the other, on the flip side, it was mostly the one that was informational, was in English. So I don't know how that would work, if somebody could help us with that, with getting that translated or more details.
Well, you know what? One of the things that marketing did was kind of reduce these kind of long flyers that we have, where we kind of more extensive information to, it seems that nobody reads these days. And we have these flyers. I need to check out, because we, in the outreach page, we should have the same flyers in Spanish too. But it's true that the exchange is kind of phasing out. And I think that probably one of the places where you can see too is Brand Center. I can send something later
I put
to the chat.
I put the link
okay.
in the chat.
Okay, cool, because I was trying to look. But you know what? I can tell you that we are reviewing these flyers. So we have we won in national headquarters. We have in the year plan that we have a very detailed year plan. One of the things is revamp these flyers. We have flyers and postcards with information specifically for agencies where the English is a little bit more technical, and then something else for clients that is a more simple language. So not only English, I refer also in Spanish or different languages. But you are totally right about the going to the community when they have experience coming from other countries, where in their countries they have a full service of medical services, like in Mexico, right? They have hospitals, ambulances, and things like that. Then they know what we do. It's like we are not enough. It's like you do this. So I remember in Phoenix that every time that I was doing anything related to RFL, I was coming with CPR demonstration and how they got the water safety in Phoenix. Every single year, still you will see that there are between 10 and 15 kids that will die because they are drowning in a swimming pool, right? And I remember when I was coming with the RFL kind of speech, I was kind of also bringing these ideas of the CPR, the water safety, preparedness, what to do when there are fire and things like that, and that's what they kind of seem more interesting for them, even if we don't offer a specific service, because the only health services that we offer is blood donations, and it's then giving us blood. But it's kind of it could be sounds even a little bit weird for them. Yeah, it's a little bit complex, and gain the trust of the communities. It is too. I remember trying to meet in Phoenix, meet the Guatemalan leader. I remember that. I remember going to 5 restaurants in a row, eating in all of them to see if I was able to eat. So, well, I was eating actually, but to see if I could talk with somebody, to gain the confidence. You talk with the first restaurant, and then you talk with the second, and you said that you have been this one, and little by little, it's gain the trust of the communities, especially hard to reach communities, is really, really complex. And one of the things is being there constantly. They need to see the face of the Red Cross constantly, and that's a lot of work. Yeah. And you have another question, right?
See, yes, and thank you so much. And I will look at the chat. So I appreciate everybody giving these resources. And as you said, Vicente, it's really important for us to build presence and create partnerships, which is my role. And on my end, I'm really working closely. One of the goals that we have is to work closely with the consulates. I here have the Mexican consulate of Indianapolis, and we're doing a lot of informational. There's a program through Disaster Be Red Cross Ready that I've been able to do in Spanish for the Mexican nationals. And we want to grow that. So we're doing virtual sessions that we'll be doing on Facebook Live to do these sessions and get out to the community. But even then, it goes back to the original of the American Red Cross has these particular services, and we have to start with the basics of what do we offer that's different from, say, the Mexican Red Cross. And that's where you shared the comment, and I wrote it down here, that we have a really good connection, a good relationship with the Mexican Red Cross. So I would love to know if we have abilities to, say, connect with them, that where somebody from the Mexican Red Cross could talk with one of our regions and be able to do more collaborations on that end. Have we done something like that before? Would that be something that we could do to talk about the differences but similarities, and then overall, of course, that the mission is to help, and that we have the humanitarian spirit to be there. So that was my other question, if we could collaborate, because I would love to do something like that.
Well, actually, we have these collaborations. I believe so that in the exchange, in some place in the restoring farming side, there is a forum that we have with the pandemic. I cannot remember if it was before or after the pandemic, but we have the Mexican Red Cross colleague, the head of the Restoring Family Links program, talking. She speaks a very good English, and she was running a 1 hour presentation of the services that they provide. So we wanted to show the American Red Cross is doing this, the Mexican Red Cross is doing the same thing, but in a different context, right? And there are these collaborations, but yeah, always we can figure out other ways where we can show partners or communities that we have this connection, because it helps a lot when you enter in a community or you start to establish a relationship with whatever community, whatever country, right? If they find out that you have already a great relationship with the Red Cross in their country, that I can tell you that this helps a lot. Just like a lot, because it's kind of opening you doors, and sometimes could be these communications between them. Because we probably that we have an MOU with the Mexican embassy here in the US, and this was between the American Red Cross and the embassy here, right? But the Mexican Red Cross in the other side is in contact with the kind of the State Department of the Mexican. I cannot remember. It's called. I cannot remember the name right now. That has this connection also with the embassies. Yeah, this collaboration is there, and if you have ideas, feel free to reach me out to see if we can do something.
We also have 2 more questions.
Thank you.
One from, thank you, Loida. We also have a question from Robert and also Karen. So Robert, do you want to go next?
Vicente,
Hey.
su amigo de Nueva York, Roberto, ¿cómo estás? Listen, I have a point to make and then a question to ask. The point here in New York is the DEI mission. We're always about DEI up here, and we always find it's trouble, difficult. Of course, migrant parents, they're concerned with getting home, food, shelter, and getting the kids into school. So they don't often have a lot of time to volunteer. But we're trying to reach out to the students and children of those migrants, the student age and the college age children, because those are the children that are going to become more acculturated a lot quicker. A lot of them already know English. A lot of them already have the school experience. So we're reaching out through them, through the high schools, using IHL to invite them in to learn about the Red Cross, and then offering them volunteer positions through the clubs and through other means. So I'm finding that we're testing it out. I'm not saying it's foolproof, but for the rest of the audience, it's a way that we feel we can reach them. I've done this before when I worked at the United Nations to reach out to people. So it's just something that I'm laying out there for everybody to think about. My question is this: you're seeing more and more disaster in the United States that's more profound. Restoring Family Links is an international program. When you look at a disaster like Maui with 2,000 to 3,000 missing people, links broken, do you see a need for a similar, maybe not as a robust program, but to stand up a similar program for the United States that's more formalized when a disaster like Maui happens and you have like 2,000 to 3,000 people disappearing, California fires, major hurricanes? Do you see something like that? Has that ever come up in a discussion?
Well, it already exists.
Yeah, reunification. Yeah. Jill, do you want to go ahead?
No, please, Vicente, the question was for you. Go for it. You're going to say the same thing I am.
Yeah. It's the reunification colleagues. It's before it was called Safe and Well because they were using the Safe and Well website that I think is fade out or there we have something still there. But it's true that the reunification team is the one kind of doing this kind of reconnections domestically, and we have a very good relationship with them. Actually, when there are these kind of big disasters, we kind of Mike Peoples is the one that is leading. Is the volunteer leading the effort. He's reporting to some of the, I can't remember the name of the person that is running right now, this national headquarters. But yeah. This exists. It's happened, I don't know, it's like when we have in 2017 also the hurricane season, also in Texas, Florida, and Puerto Rico. Also, they were kind of the ones that they were doing the work. And actually, I think that they have a monthly call to talk about that, to talk about how they're doing the working. And, it's interesting because most of the national societies have only one team doing that. That is the Restoring Family Links. For instance, in Mexico, the Restoring Family Links is doing this work, the domestic and the international work. And here we have this kind of, it's separated, probably because, the dimension of the country, and it's a little bit different. But that, yeah, I can send you the information if you are interested on learning a little bit more, because it has been a program that they have been going through some changes, and especially because they stopped using the main tool, or more or less stopped using the main tool that was the Safe and Well page, where people could register and people could look for them, right? Especially because we are in a time where you have the Facebook, the Google Finder, and tools that probably make a little bit not obsolete, but make our Safe and Well tool less, less prone to be used. Let's say that. Yeah.
Understood, because today I spoke to somebody at the New York chapter. They were told by National in the last 24 hours that restoring those links in Hawaii looks like they're planning into February of 2024. That's how much work they have ahead of them.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Well, I can tell that. It's a little bit like in Puerto Rico. It's I was there.
Understood.
Doing something else, but I saw the reunification colleagues, and yeah, it was it's a very complex work.
Yeah.
Not only because of the difficulty to move in disaster areas and the lack of kind of communication tools, also because of the data protection, privacy laws that make it a little bit more difficult. That yeah.
Well, it's good to see you again. Hopefully, I'll see you in a couple months back in DC. It was a great talk. Thank you.
Nice to see you.
The other thing, I would say thank you, Robert, for asking that question. And think about 12,000 families that have lost their homes, and then the ramifications of people who are missing, and trying to find those multiplied by 6, because they're extended families that exist, and it's really, really vital. In any case, Karen, please go ahead and you raised your hand. Did you have another question?
Oh, well, actually, I didn't know how to take my hand down.
Oh, no worries.
So
There
that's
should
why
be
it's
3
there.
dots.
But on the other side, what you just said, Jill, makes my heart go out for the disaster volunteers who are there engaging with the people one-on-one. It's got to feel like a trauma ward for the individuals and for the volunteers who are serving them also.
So true, Karen. So true. Yeah.
Yeah, if you have been in one of these disaster, a fire, it's there's nothing there. I remember that I was deployed to one of them. Yeah, it was devastating to see nothing and see the shelters. It was it's very complex because you have a flooding or something like that, and sometimes you can do the cleaning. It's.
And Eric said something in the chat. He said, you aren't the same when you get home. When you get home from working one of those. Thanks, Eric, for your comment. I want to open it up to anybody else who has questions or comments about Vicente's talk. And also, I put my name in the chat if you have any questions about resettlement agencies or how to connect with the community, your community. And Loida gave a perfect example of there's usually a community education or external relations team that works with agencies in the disaster and has sort of the pulse of the community agencies that exist that are there for undocumented, for refugees, for displaced. And it's always good to go to their meetings. They have meetings usually once a month. But anybody else have questions or comments? I put my name and telephone number in the chat for follow-up. Christine Medeiros is another wonderful resource for Restoring Family Links, as Vicente knows. And there are two mentors that are on this call if they want to put their name in as well, because Vicente otherwise gets every single call. I can imagine you get them all.
I am always happy to answer questions.
I love it. I know.
If I see the email.
You're always available. I know. Anybody else have any questions or comments? Alexander, did you just want to say something? PJ Joel is one of the mentors. She just put her telephone number in there.
Is there any legal constraints that you've experienced in each of your positions that seems to be repetitive? Just not something that you've overcome, but just like something you've noticed that continually tends to constrict your ability to work, complete a job?
Well, yeah, data protection laws. It's we are talking about the resettlement agencies, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then resettlement agencies, in addition to be able to open the doors for you to talk with the refugees that they are processing at that moment, they are also the great tool to figure it out if they have been resettled somebody, right? But they cannot share this information. Then the relationship, sometimes some agreements that you can sign with them. Look, today, for instance, we are signing an agreement with the Office of Refugee Resettlement. They are the ones that they have the custody of the unaccompanied minors. And over the years, we have been working with them, but we have this constraint, this issue that they cannot work with us because we didn't have an agreement, right? And right now we are about to sign an agreement that they are going to let us to break this issue that we have over the years, that we couldn't share information with them and they couldn't share information with us, right? This is one of the main things that I will think right now. It's especially in restoring family links. It's a big issue, right? It's you can have the best intentions, but you encounter the reality.
I was curious if those things overlapped, which is, thank you. That was very good.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments that people wanted to make? Vicente, you are amazing, as always. I appreciate you so much. Is there anything, parting words that you'd like to say? I also want you to know that if you think of something after this talk, Vicente, that you want to share with the group, send it to us in an email, because we always do a follow-up email from these discussion groups to everybody who attended, so they have more resources and more information. Like, for instance, if you create a one-page cheat sheet that's coming out before one source comes out instead of Exchange, go ahead and share it. We'll share it with everybody. Whatever resource you think is important for this group to have, feel free to send us an email and we'll send it out to distribute it to the group. But any parting shots, any parting words that you'd like to say to this group before we disappear?
Well, I will say it's probably you hear all this all the time, but thank you. I mean, this work is something that we do all together. When I was thinking, how am I going to talk this, right? I have been going through encountering so many volunteers and employees in the Red Cross that has been working with me, helping me, and helping others, right? And that I only feel appreciation for everyone, and like the teams that I'm working with, right? And we are here to help you. Me and the IHL, the JAC, and the RFL teams in national headquarters, we are here to serve you and to try to do your work easier. Sometimes probably we don't, but we try. And if you think that we don't, you tell us and we will try to change that. Thank you so much for everything.
Oh, Vicente, thank you so much. I wanted to share with you, we do these talks every single month. Vicente was kind enough to come this month. Next month, we'll have 2 people who work with the Global Climate Center talk about heat and the climate crisis. And the month after that, we'll have a wonderful woman talking from the ICRC. But what I want you to know is I'll stay on for the next few minutes if anybody has any questions. And I just wanted to thank you, Vicente. If you look in the chat, you will see so many thank yous just from talking today. I just want to, from the bottom of my heart, thank you for taking the time. I know this week at National was very crazy, having heard from a few of the people at National, and for you to take this time just to be with us means a lot. So
it's always a pleasure. Thank you so much for organizing these events. That are great, actually.
I love doing it. I love it. It's my passion.
I know.
There are so many things to be passionate about.
Right.
Anyway. Okay, so if anybody wants to stay on and ask questions or have any further challenges that they want to talk about, feel free. I'll be on for the next 5 minutes. And I don't know if Vicente, if you want to stay on too.
Yeah, I will stay on.
Yeah, that sounds good. That sounds good. Otherwise, for those of you who have to leave the meeting, feel free to do that. And oh, I am so happy you're here. There are so many questions. We just got 6 or 7 new RFL workers that are brand new. And Christine has gone on to another region. And so we don't get to her anymore. So we're now looking frantically for a lead.
Wait, she moved to a different region?
She's focusing on a different region. I think it's a central region.
Yeah.
No, she didn't work to another region of the United States, just to another region. So she's not in our region anymore. So we miss her terribly because she created such an amazing program.
Yeah. That's the thing I was talking before. When people move, everything kind of tends to disappear.
It stops. Yeah. And so now we're working on developing new leads.
I think that Eric has a question.
Oh, good.
Eric, do you have a question?
Go for
Sure.
it.
No, I'm Christine's new outreach for the North Bay.
You are.
I just signed on for that. Yeah.
I love it, Eric. This is wonderful. So you're going to be going to the East Bay Refugee Forum?
I'm not aware of the East Bay Refugee Forum.
Oh, okay. I'll send you that. I'll send it to you.
I don't know. We'll see. I'm North Bay. I'm Napa, Solano.
Okay.
That would certainly be worthwhile. She sent me along her plan for Sonoma Marin.
Fantastic.
Which is directly applicable here. Plug in new resources and we can start outreach sometime relatively soon.
I recruited her for Marin to be the RFL caseworker years ago. And within a week, she gave me a business plan for Marin. This is how organized this wonderful woman is.
It was pretty good. I was impressed. Yeah.
Yeah. Totally amazing human being. Yeah. One of the blessings we had for many years here. Yeah.
Yes, it's amazing.
Another question, another thank you. You got another 2 thank yous on there. You have tons and tons of thank yous. Vicente.
No, these events that you're organizing are great. Really.
I love them. I love the people who come to them, and I love the people who speak in them. They're just amazing. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, the ICRC is going to be great, and also the climate. Yeah, it's this is a pool of a window of knowledge that you can bring these amazing people to talk about the programs and things like that.
Vicente,
Yeah.
it's all because I know each one of them personally. I think
Yeah.
there may be 2 in the last 3 years that I haven't known personally. And you, I met just by going by your office, and you were laughing like you are right now. I mean, when I think of the crazy coincidences and how we meet each other, it's totally amazing. Yeah.
Especially here in the Red Cross. That's for me, look, discovering the mission, and probably it's something that I should have said before, right? But, I never thought to work for the Red Cross, and I discovered the mission and I stayed. Once that you discover, the scope of what we do, it's impossible to leave.
It is. I mean, I remember I had a woman come and recruit me to be on the board of the Red Cross 42 years ago, right? And I said, how many hours is it? I was working full time. How many hours is it a month? Oh, she said, only 2 hours a month. Oh, okay. So I said, I'll do it. 6 months later, I went up to her and I said, you lied to me. I was working 16 hours a month, with Red Cross. And I have never looked back. I have never looked back from that. I love working with Red Cross. It's my joy.
This happened to me too. I remember that they asked me to volunteer only 4 hours a week. And I remember talking with my supervisor at the time saying, well, I think that I can come other day, then I will not forget the password for the database. Because I thought that 4 hours was little, and especially seeing how much work we had, because there was so many fires. And you need to call every single client and talk with them. It's not that you do the calls to check in. Sometimes you were talking with somebody for 1 hour, even if you were not going to provide any other assistance. It's you were talking with a person that has a disaster. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think I don't know if you knew, but I was in Venezuela when they had 24,000 people missing because they had a horrible floods in Vargas, in the tourist town of Vargas, and a whole mountainside fell on a village, plus also on the tourist hotels. And they only had one person. He was a pilot who was the Restoring Family Links lead there. And he'd worked 3 or 4 cases a year. And suddenly he had 24,000 people missing. So that's how I got involved in RFL. I was like, I had a little blue book that said RFL tracing, it said tracing at the time. And that's how I started with RFL, my craziness, So anybody else have any burning questions? This is a time that you get to ask Vicente anything. Before you have 1 more minute to ask anything you like.
I saw the comment that somebody, I don't see the name, about the pregnant moms that were crossing into Nogales from Mexico to labor. Yeah,
2 babies that were born. Yeah.
Yeah, they're
newspapers were not respectful, but the staff was very respectful, she said. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah,
What were you going to say?
No, this is the reality that we are living. This is the reality that we are living. Yeah.
Well, my friend, I'm going to let you go because it's 3:30 exactly, and I promised it was only an hour and a half. But I hope it was okay. I put your email in the chat.
Yeah.
So people could email you if they want. And if you have any notes for us that you want to send on to the group, any afterthoughts, just send them on to me and I'll pass them on.
Okay, cool. Perfect. Hey, thank you so much for the invitation.
How many children have you got?
3.
Oh, the youngest daughter is 12?
No, 13, 8, and 7. Week will be 8. Yeah.
You have a
13.
wonderful handful.
Yeah, a lot of work. Again. A lot of work.
I can imagine. The white hairs aren't just coming from RFL, they're also coming.
Yeah. 50-50, I would say.
How many plates you're throwing up in the air at the same time. Goodbye, dear friend, and thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much. Take care, okay?
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.